Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay, you're coming from a little bit of a different background. Normally it's me, but you're going to be in the hot seat. So where are you joining us from today?
Oh, well, listeners and viewers, as you know, we have a hospitality management company that I'm a co-founder of, and we're actually coming from one of our brand new listings, the Pop Art Paradise here in Coconut Grove. It's a neighborhood in Miami, pool house, 4 rooms, beautifully decorated with a little bit of the art from the owners. And we launch it next week. So we're here out of this home today.
That's
Just thought
very
would be a
cool.
perfect place to record from. But it was a busy week. I don't know how you travel so much. I was traveling around last week. I was jet setting. Thursday, left to San Francisco, landed in San Francisco for the night, out to Sonoma for a farm hospitality event.
Yeah.
Thread Farms, which was very cool. Which
Yes.
is a 3-star restaurant. I got to go see their farm. That
Okay.
supplied 50% of the food for the restaurant.
Do you have dinner there?
We had lunch on the
Okay.
farm, but not dinner at the restaurant. And then we finished the event, got on a plane, myself, my co-founders of Baya, Ben Wolf and Banks Chisholm, left the event, got on a plane to Palm Springs to scout a potential new location for another Baya, and then back to Miami.
I love it. I love it. But you got to actually see some, by the way, for those that are joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. I love this because both the airport in Sonoma, super cool, very cute. They have a whole Peanuts theme. And then also the Palm Springs airport, very unique with that whole open air element. So, I mean, you know me, West Coast. I love it. West Coast girl. I was like, wait, you're in my backyard, so to speak, relatively speaking. But I love that you got to check it out. It's very cool.
It was very cool. And I had a moment in desert Palm Springs. It was sunrise, 5:30 in the morning, on top of a mountain, watching the suns come up. And all of a sudden, these 2 dogs started running at me out of nowhere in the middle of the desert. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I'm about to fight to the death on these dogs. And
And
they
did
just
they
came up with me and started licking me and just sat next to me as the sun came up. And now I want to get a dog. And I found out later it was a former owner's dogs that still live on the land and someone feeds them. I'm like, wow, this is so cool.
That is so cool. Wait, that's a very cool story.
Yeah, so Will Slickers, I may be joining you as a dog owner, producer Will in the background. I'll let you know. But yeah, so that was my week, crazy. And now here, looking a little puffy, we said. How am I looking, everybody?
That's all right.
But we're here to do a great show today. We got a great one.
We are. By the way, you definitely want to stay on because we have a special guest on today. So we don't always have a lot of guests, but when we do, it's worthwhile. So, but how about this? Before we get into it, do you want to go ahead and do our first sponsor read here? And
yes,
then we can.
Thank you to all the listeners and viewers. You keep tuning in and you keep spreading the word of how good our show is. We keep getting sponsors, which we appreciate very much. So this episode is brought to you by StayFi. StayFi helps short-term rental operators build direct guest relationships through branded Wi-Fi portals, email marketing, and my favorite, data tools that turn one-time bookers into repeat guests. So start growing your direct booking revenue today at stayfi.com/goodmorninghospitality. That's stayfi.com/goodmorninghospitality.
You did that so well. I figured that would be so appropriate considering you were in one of your short-term rentals.
Look at this. Come on and stay with us. We'll put the link in. Once you get it loaded.
I love that. Okay, so we were saying that we have a special guest. So I know we don't want to, delay much longer, but we've got a great guest.
I'm so excited to talk to her.
I know. So I think you've been on before, Sarah. Actually, maybe not because you had Sarah Kopit, who is joining us on the show. She is editor-in-chief over at Skift, and a recent article came out that we're going to do a deep dive into, which was basically called "Going It Alone: Why Hotel Owners Are Dropping the Big Brands." This is a fantastic read. Highly, highly, highly recommend. We'll make sure that the link is in the show notes for sure. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on the other Sarah. Oh, Steve, you might have a Sarah sandwich in a second.
Ooh, I love it.
All right, Sarah.
Hi. Thanks for having me on, guys.
My gosh.
I hear so much about Good Morning Hospitality, and now here I am.
I know. It's so good to have you on. We've met in person a couple times.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to chat. We definitely had a long conversation in Berlin, in New York, other places. And I mean, I always see your stuff. And also everybody's always like, oh wait, the other Sarah, this, that. So always
the blonde Sarahs too. I mean, you just can't. You do, yeah. I was gonna say.
I know.
Well, hopefully we didn't bore you with our coffee talk. We had to catch up. We only get to catch up on the show. So now.
I know. Well, Seth and I are the same. Like we hardly ever talk. and we're always like, save it for the pod. Like we have to bore everybody with our catching up and how it's been going. So I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Steve has been doing exciting things, so I wanted to make sure you got to.
Yeah. Sarah, you wrote an amazing article here. How about you give the viewers and listeners kind of like the 30-second download on what you did and what you're seeing, or even longer, just kind of share what you're seeing out there, because it is very in depth.
Yeah. So basically, this is part of a series that I've been writing on kind of the struggles of American hotel owners, and basically on the more mid to economy side of the hotel ownership business. And I started it started really quite organically, just watching how much hotels were kind of the center of the story up in Minneapolis in the winter. Think way back to what you were seeing in all of your social media feeds in January with ice going up there. And really, hotels, they were in an absolutely unwinnable situation. There was no good option for them. They were getting pressure from all sides, from the government, from the community. They were having issues with like their employees feeling safe to come to work because, it was just, I did a deep dive on that. And from that, as I was talking to the hotel owners, basically I learned about all their other struggles. And so I wrote a piece called The Squeeze, which I talked basically about their like the pure play financial issues that are, really squeezing them in their margins between, basically increasing costs and the franchise fees from the big brands coming right off the top. And then in doing that, I heard a lot about hotel owners who were just dropping the brands altogether and going independent. And that was their solution. That's what they found worked best for them. The numbers, when they did the math, especially as, there was a big hotel boom in the early aughts, 2000, 2010, or right before the financial crisis. And those franchise agreements that were, usually between 15, 20 years, depending upon which brand you were with, they're coming up for renewal now. And so you've got a lot of people who signed a hotel, their franchise agreement 20 years ago, and now they're looking at it for the first time. They're pulling it out. They're doing the math that Pritesh Patel and Gary Patel and other people that I talked to have done, and deciding that, it just doesn't make sense. I'm going to put my own name on the door and do it that way.
Yeah. I mean, and you kind of nailed it in a couple of things. I remember that story when it was going on in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
We covered that here where, they didn't want to host people in the hotel, and the hotel brand took away their brand. Yeah. They took away the flag because they were stuck in this position. Like, I don't want ice here. I don't want to be political. And they took it away.
I went and I stayed in that hotel when I was reporting on. I did.
And so what did you find?
It's called the Lakeville Inn. It was, I kind of thought it was lovely. It was lovely, that hotel. Like it was great. And sadly, there was nobody there but me. But, it was very well kept up. I kind of thought it would be somehow like sad or something. And it absolutely was not. It was, they were still keeping it up to brand standards. I mean, I arrived just a few weeks after they lost their flag, but yeah, that was a part of that initial piece.
So. It was interesting to me too on this article is a couple things. One, we talk about all these brands that are always opening up, and that's the way that they, the big chains can start putting more and more of their hotels in the same market and not have protection against it. What was something you heard from the owners about that? Because you pay all this money to get a Hilton, and then all of a sudden, these brands can then start putting all their other brands there. What did you see when you were talking to them?
Yeah, I mean, the basically the hotel owners, the ones who do kind of disagree with this practice or don't like this practice, they just disagree with the argument that the hotel brands have, which is this is a different class of hotel. This is a different customer. It won't impact you. And they're like, well, that's nonsense. it does, of course, impact me. So that is the tension that you're really seeing from the soft brands.
Mm-hmm.
So did you, I mean, by the way, and even the backstory about how this kind of came about, like you weren't looking for this story. The story kind of revealed itself.
Exactly.
Do you feel like this is how widespread of a trend do you think this is going to be over the next couple of years as these hotel owners are like, what are we doing? This doesn't make sense.
So I got some data from Fran Data, which is a research firm that really specializes just in franchises of all types. And they told me that, it would be 1,200 agreements that are basically coming up for renewal. So it's not like a mass scale event, but it's, and this is really limited to the like luxury, like we're not talking about luxury.
No,
luxury,
we're not talking about that.
Luxury is doing fine. It's really these drive-by, like you're on I-80, driving across the country. It's these hotels that are really, struggling and having the issues. So, while I think that like Pritesh Patel is a really good example of what you need to make it work, which is that, he's the second actually, I shouldn't say he's the second generation of hotel owners. I don't know that for sure, but it was his parents who signed the original agreement 20 years ago. And now, when he was a kid, now he's a grown up, he worked at PricewaterhouseCooper. Like he came back, he read this thing for the first time and he's like, you know what, I can do better. And so we're also talking about families. We talked about AHOA a little bit backstage. Like that came up a lot for these particular owners. This ownership group is that you've got a lot of parents who made these original deals. And now you've got kids coming in who either, I talked to some owners who said their kids don't want anything to do with the business. We're just going to we want to be out. But then, if you have somebody like Pritesh who is like, well, I have my own ideas and I have my own thoughts about how to run a business. And, I don't want to be told, what color paint to use or how to do my advertising or, I want to do it myself. And so if you have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, which I think a lot of these hotel owners did back in the early 2000s, it's just that this was the way they chose to do it. Like this was the entryway that a lot of these first generation, so to speak, hotel owners found. Now you've got those kids that are like, let's rock and roll. Yeah.
Well, the landscape has changed too. These hotel owners have many more options as far as on the back end and how to run their business. They have options that offer them or that take different percentages. And so at the end of the day, they're looking at like, okay, what does the flag actually bring us in comparison to how much it costs us? And because there are so many different, it's like, okay, well, what makes sense? And obviously each property, it's going to be a unique proposition depending on where they are. It's like, okay, well, we happen to be, uniquely located here. It wouldn't necessarily matter if we have a flag. Some might be like, well, we are on the side of a road and probably having a flag would increase the chances of somebody stopping by because we seem like a safe bet because we're in the middle of wherever off of I-90, I-80, whatever. So it is interesting.
Yeah. And, you think about it. Think about how much the world has changed since the early 2000s. Like let's not even get into AI, but just like the off-the-shelf technology packages that are readily available. There are all types of them that you can, if you're an independent hotel owner, you can just buy them. That did not exist back then. And then you think about social media, about distribution, about, how you reach your customer. This was pre-iPhone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, one of the things that Pritesh was telling me was, when he went dark to do improvements and renovations, like he's like, content is king, right? He did all of it on Instagram. Like he's a very out there, and he is very online, and he's very, he's everywhere. And if you look, he put this article out on X, and like the number of people that follow him and he talks to, and just, it was kind of amazing to watch him interact with his community, with his customers. And that just, of course, was never available to his parents.
Yeah. And I can see it here too, just because in my world, I worked in hotels and in short-term rentals. Yeah. And just in this home now, I can log in and I can have it on 30 different platforms. I can get bookings from all over the world that come in here and then try to convert them into direct bookings. And the hotel we're building is not a flagged hotel. We're building a new brand. And that was part of the argument when getting financing was, well, you need a Marriott or a Hilton or Hyatt. We're showing we don't. We already have 13,000 followers on an account on Instagram being open for a couple of weeks. And we have a VIP list of people paid to get on that list to sit and join and come into our place. So there's all these different ways now that you can really do demand. But something I want to ask you a question on it, because for you used to be or you still are an attorney, I guess, that used to work on these agreements. What were some things that you saw that you used to make to protect the brands that maybe are a little changing?
Well, I just, I mean, I think that the thing that hotel, I mean, I can't speak for what the hotel brands do or do not do.
Generalized, yes.
But, these franchise agreements are very rarely negotiated. Mm-hmm. Maybe tiniest bit, but it's kind of like a take it or leave it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that now, and I can only imagine what it's like to be a franchisor's attorney at this point. That I have not done. I haven't done it 20 years. But, there's a lot more wiggle room. I mean, you were just talking about financing. That used to be another big hurdle. As you said, like you need a flag. And now I think the banks also are kind of like, do you?
Yep.
And they're more willing to, like, if you can show X, Y, Z, also that the brand used to provide, the banks are more willing to take a little bit more risk and give these independent owners the possibility, because they've seen it done and they know they can do it with all of these tools, where before they, it didn't exist. Like I said, it didn't exist. They didn't have it and they couldn't. So that is also changing as well.
I love it. Give the power back to the owners and the operators. Look, there's a place for all brands. I'm not poo-pooing the brands. I work for some great brands. I still think that they do a great job, but I think there's other times where you're getting nickel and dime and you don't realize that you are as an owner. You're like, where's my money going? Especially in the budget-friendly places.
Yeah, and I also want to, the brands are not the villains here. It's it's more that the agreements that and the structure that has been in place for the last 20, I mean, it's longer than these agreements have been in effect, but for let's say the past 50 years, it's struggling right now. The structure itself is struggling. Yeah. The business model itself is kind of collapsing. Yeah. And that's really the tension here. The brands are just operating in the same business model too. Like they, especially the company, the public companies, they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to make as much money as possible.
Yes.
That is the fundamental purpose of a corporation, is to make money. So, I don't think anybody begrudges them their, to do that. That is their job. But it's just all of a sudden you've got this group of people that were like, but I can do it too. And I can do it better. And I can do it without you. And so they go off and do it themselves. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, you think, if you're going to have warm and fuzzies about capitalism, this is probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Oh, what were you going to say, Steve?
I was going to say, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm sure we could do an entire show on this thing, and maybe two more when more of the series comes out. But I'm excited to see where these operators go. I hope you do a check-in with the Patels.
Yeah.
They're not related, but check in with them maybe a year from now and see how they're doing. once they've gone on their own, because I have a feeling in my gut that they're going to be doing better than they thought, just with all the tools and technology out there in the world now.
Well, and I love what this like brings up. I know I want to be mindful for our time here, but I just, I do hope that this changes because again, we've discussed the landscape has changed. Again, these agreements are highly advantageous to the brands, but maybe there's something that they can soften, or they can, they can
another value add.
Yeah, exactly. Like the things that stood out to me, and I'll just like touch on these briefly. But again, if you guys are tuning in, definitely check out this article because there's so much more than what we're discussing here. But as far as like the territorial protection, and the phantom territory, and basically the brands that will tell you whether it'll encroach on your business, and it's like, wait, what? Like somebody else in like another city that doesn't even know the intimate details as far as this market, but then also the Google reviews and the review, like,
right.
Why are we holding on? And it's, those may have made sense in, 2000, 2002, but again, how the landscape has changed. I mean, there's got to be more wiggle room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Miss Sarah, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And all the knowledge you have on this. The article, again, is great. Make sure to read it. Put the article back up one more time, Will, so viewers and listeners can see it and see the headline. Go read this article. It is fantastic, especially if you're in the industry. And if you have that entrepreneurial itch, it's also a good article to read from that point of view, too, because I learned a lot just from her article. So, Sarah, man, so awesome to have you here. We got to have you on more often. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, anytime.
Please. That was great. And I'm just excited to see how this hopefully impacts, it impacts change. It gets the word out there, and we'll see what changes end up happening from this. So very cool.
Thank you both.
Great work.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
All right, bye. Oh, isn't she fantastic?
I know, she's awesome. I was looking at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, we could do an hour on this show talking.
I know. I would, but it's like the conversation is so great. And I know I've mentioned multiple times in the show, but really read this because it gives a different, it just gives a different understanding as far as what some of these small hotel owners are going through. But I
Google reviews you touched on, but you didn't say it was like, this hotel had, thousands of hotel reviews over, 18 years. And then when they drop the flag's like, no, those are our reviews. Those belong to us and you can't have it. And we shut down our Google page. So you just have to be aware of what you're signing. I know, like you said, you can't really, negotiate too much with the franchise agreement, but there's a lot of options out there now. And I'm happy to talk more about that because I really am in the middle of it right now and learning all of that as we're building out a brand. But before we move on, Sarah, okay.
Yes.
I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Bilt. They're helping restaurants and hotel F&B teams better understand their guests and create more personalized experiences that actually drive repeat visits. So if you care about loyalty, which I know you do, Sarah, and guest experience, it's worth checking out. Head to joinbilt.com/GMH, and that's joinbilt.com/GMH.
Love it. Well, thank you. Oh, gosh. So we had so many articles that we wanted to go over today, but it was so fantastic having Sarah on. By the way, let us know in the comments as you're watching this live, if you enjoyed us having Sarah on. We can definitely look into having her back on, other individuals. I personally love it because then it just gets a different perspective and we can do a deeper dive, whether it's into the articles or obviously whether it's an industry thought leader. But why don't we cover at least one more?
What I love about it, having her on, is she's a reporter. Like she's going out into the place, asking people, doing questions, not just looking at a press release and then making an article. Like she's actually
totally.
So
Staying at hotels, like she's out there. But I have to say that's a big shout out to the team at Skift. They are reporters and they are literally rolling up their sleeves and going out there. So when you're reading some of these articles at Skift, like know that a lot has gone into it and it's not just a regurgitated press release on something. It's these are reporters. So, but let's go into
not like Sarah and I here, who are just, we're not real journalists, are we? I guess we cover articles. We go out and see things. We're gonna get to some real journalism soon. We're gonna go break a story.
A different type of journalism, I would say. I would say a different type of journalism. I mean, what's my social media? That's a different type of journalism, arguably. Yeah. I don't consider myself a writer, but I've written a book and I'm working on book number 2. So I guess it all depends on the lens that you're looking at it. Okay. One more topic. Let's do a quick touch on this Visa topic. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Visa just stepped into travel distribution. So for those that have been paying attention, Visa launched Visa Destinations, which is a consumer-facing travel platform offering cardholders curated experiences, dining and shopping across 10 cities, including Paris, London, Dubai, New York. Partners include Trip.com, Star Alliance, Tickets, and Viator. So what's interesting, there's a structural conflict here. Visa doesn't issue cards. Banks do. So Chase, Capital One, Citi, they all have their own built-in travel portals. Oh my God, I can't say the word. And they've spent years trying to capture travel spend, but Visa Destination sits above all of them as a network-level consumer platform. Okay, chime in on this because I know you've got something to say.
Yeah, I just want to give out some numbers first to kind of give the scale of this. Yeah, how many people are actually booking here? So Chase Travel did $12.6 billion in sales in 2025 and only growing this year. And American Express Travel did $11.1 billion in sales. And so Visa is sitting on the sidelines like, hey, like we need to get in on this. We're at the top of the funnel, right? Like we can capture things here. And they're being very specific, right? They have their alliances and they're launching in 10 cities. And look, we talk about this model all the time and the credit card fees, and it's like almost not free money, but you're there and you're collecting those fees and it can become gigantic, especially like we were just talking about earlier for your shareholders of your company. So I'm curious to see the pushback here of what Chase and Capital One and Citi start saying, because they've spent so much money building this out for everyone and all the marketing, and they have a giant audience. So if it starts getting whittled away, I'm sure there's some deals that are going to be made. Hey Visa, you're no longer doing the transactions. We're going to go with someone else, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But Visa's at the top; they control. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be interesting. Exactly. I mean, it's hard to like add too much because it's more of like, oh, okay, obviously Visa's going to frame it in one way. No, we're adding. It's like. But yeah, I mean, I've actually done some work with Visa with different tech platforms, and it is a very interesting just landscape, just all of like the credit card companies, because obviously, like for example, when I was working with Visa, in theory, they could have acquired the company that I was working with, but for them, what made more sense was to help it grow on the back end, because at the end of the day, if that particular company became a Visa company, maybe others, if Amex, etc., wouldn't want to play. So this is not new territory. They understand. They understand the playing field.
For listeners and viewers, I'm curious. Just put in the comments here. Like, what do you use when you book trips? I'm curious. Like this past trip we talked about at the top of the show, I booked it all through American Express Travel. I used FHR. I looked for the best rate. I got my deals through there. I booked my flights through there.
Yeah.
So I'm a big American Express user because I'm in there.
I barely use my portals. I barely use them. I lean
free money in there.
I know. No. I mean, I do because I don't believe in sitting on points. So I definitely do, but it's not quite, I feel like other people, but it did actually help me like a couple weeks back when I was looking for flights, for example, to go to Amsterdam, and all the flights were like an economy ticket was $4,000. I ended up booking that through Amex because I had whatever the different things. And then by the time I got money back, the ticket only ended up being like $3,200. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, that works. So yeah, I mean, you can play the game.
I want to do a points show because for this trip, it was almost like free basically for me. I didn't use points. I used FHR. And if you have FHR, if you have a platinum card, they give you $300 semi-annually. So that was a $450 room night, $300 off, $100 credit on site. So I didn't have to pay for food basically when I was there for the day. So all of a sudden it was like I paid $50 just for using my credit card. So
if you do it right, if you do it right, it can definitely be awesome. Okay, why don't we? Do we have quick time to do our?
We got to do this. We have to do this. I only show up for this part of the show.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Yes, that's the only reason I'm here is for whose brand is it anyway?
Brought
to you by No one yet, but you can be a sponsor soon. Let us know. But I love this part of the show where we try to guess the sub-brand, or we guess what brand owns this sub-brand. So we put up the name of a hotel if you haven't played yet. It's a brand. We want to see who owns that brand because we were just talking about
let's see.
So let's start it off. Who do we got here, Will? Who do we have on the screen? This is not even a real company. Studio Res. Studio Reservations. Look at that logo. I worked hard on it. Let me think here. This feels like I'm going Best Western owns this brand. That's my guess. Viewers and listeners, get your guesses in. I see some brands coming through here. IHG, Hilton, good guess. Let's see.
No.
5 seconds, everybody. 5, 4, 3, 2.
I'll just say Accor, just to say Accor.
And 1. So we got Accor and Best Western. Who do we got here, Will? Look at that drum roll. Marriott.
Wait, what?
That is amazing. Marriott. Let's pull up Studio Res on the screen. Can we get a home screen shot of Studio Res in the back there?
Because that is crazy. I have never heard of that. Studio Res.
Listeners and viewers, have you stayed at Studio Res? Settled in at Studio Res by Marriott. Your studio, your space.
Wow.
So longer stays, again, so more in the affordable range. Featured hotels, limited service, do your own laundry there. I see it's getting more and more into this space, right? We talk about it. But thank you, Studio Res, for doing a great job for all the people that stay with you and make sure they have a space and a place to stay comfortably across many locations, Southeast and the West. So a growing brand. So let us know if you stayed at a Studio Res. But man, I was way off. Way off.
We're way off. No, I appreciated the direction you went. I'm shocked because I work with Marriott so closely. And I have never talked about a Studio Res like
that's why it makes the game so fun. And I appreciate all you listeners and viewers for playing along with us. It makes it so much more fun. And we're going to find a sponsor for this one, I think. This is a good one to have.
Yeah. This is a good one for sure.
But this was a great show. I can't believe we flew by already.
Yeah.
We appreciate you all sitting here listening with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe so that you know when we're going live and doing these shows. And you get to see our guests like Sarah Kopit joining us and talking about her amazing articles. Anything you want to add here, Sarah?
No, I just have to say, again, just let us know if you liked us having a guest on. We're definitely open to it. And because today's conversation was great. So be sure to share it. This was a wonderful conversation. And I think it's a very important topic to get out there. So hope you guys enjoyed.
All right. Well, until next week, everybody.
Stay hospitable.